Hello, my friend, and welcome to Ancient After Dark. I'm Nathaniel, and tonight I'll be your companion on another quiet journey through the forgotten edges of history where memory fades into myth. You can settle in now. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breath slow down just a little. And if you wish, you can close your eyes, because tonight we begin beneath the waves. The ocean has always been patient, more patient than stone, more enduring than empire. It waits, it watches, and it remembers everything. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of the tides we know, there are places where sunlight still touches the tops of ruins, places swallowed long before history began to write its own name. And sometimes, when the moonlight is soft enough, it feels as if the sea itself wants to speak, but only in whispers, never in words. People have always feared the water and loved it at the same time. It calls to us, even as it hides the world below. It has no beginning, no end. It simply moves, shaping the edges of continents, turning mountains into sand. We stand on the shore and imagine what might be beneath the surface. And the sea says nothing. It doesn't need to. Long before ships ever crossed it, people told stories about what lay beneath. They spoke of kingdoms that glittered below the light, temples of gold, cities that once belonged to gods, and of a single island, vast and proud, that sank when its heart grew heavy. They called it Atlantis, and though the name belongs to one story, the feeling it stirs belongs to all of us. You see, we are creatures of memory. We collect the past like seashells, holding them to our ear to hear echoes that might not even be ours. Every ruin, every myth is a reflection, a reminder that what is whole today may one day drift apart. And perhaps that is why Atlantis still floats somewhere in our collective dreaming, because it is not just a lost city. It is a mirror for everything we've ever built and watched slip away. The story begins not with a sailor or a king, but with a philosopher. In ancient Athens, almost 2,500 years ago, a man named Plato sat beneath an olive tree and began to speak of a place beyond the known world. He said there was an island, rich beyond measure, larger than Libya and Asia combined, whose people had harnessed the power of the seas, whose palaces shone with orichalcum, a metal red as fire. But he also said, that power without humility is fragile, and that the island's pride angered the gods. It is strange how gently Plato told the end. He did not fill it with fury or sound, just a single night of rain, a trembling of the earth, and by morning, nothing remained but an ocean wider than before. He said the sea itself had taken Atlantis, swallowed it whole, leaving only a story to drift on the surface of time. You might think that a philosopher's tale would be remembered as a parable and forgotten, but humans have never been good at letting go of beautiful things, even when they are warnings. So the story spread, carried by merchants, by poets, by dreamers who stared at the horizon and wondered, what if it was true? Imagine the world as Plato knew it. No satellites, no maps of the ocean floor, only the shimmer of stars above and the restless dark beneath. Every voyage was a risk. Every coast was a question. And beyond the known lands lay the realm of imagination. Atlantis became a shape in the mist, a promise that there was still something waiting to be found, something that could change everything we thought we knew. But before we follow those explorers, before we trace the rumors and the false maps, we must linger here a little longer, in the silence where the story began. Close your eyes and picture it. The sea calm as glass, the scent of salt and fig trees drifting through the air, the hum of crickets somewhere inland. Now picture a man speaking softly to his students, his words rising and falling with the rhythm of the waves, telling of an age before their own, when gods still walked beside men. He said that Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. Beyond that point, the ocean opened like a door, leading to endless waters, and an island that was once the heart of the world. The Atlanteans, he said, were a people of immense skill, engineers, builders, sailors, scholars. But as their greatness grew, so did their desire. They turned outward, conquering islands and coasts, seeking dominion over all they saw, and in that hunger, they lost the balance that had once made them strong. You can almost hear the tone of his voice change there. Soft, disappointed, like a teacher speaking of brilliance gone astray. He said the gods withdrew their favor, and the earth trembled in reply. One day and one night of misfortune, that was all it took. An entire island, swallowed by the sea. If you're still awake, you might wonder why such a tale lingers so powerfully. Why do we still whisper its name? Why do we still imagine marble columns glowing beneath the waves? Maybe it's because deep down, we know that nothing we build truly lasts. That time, like water, erodes all edges, softens all certainty, and leaves only fragments to be found later. Atlantis might not exist, not as an island, not as stone and sand, but every generation has its own version of it, a place of perfection, lost to the tides, a reminder of how close we always stand to the edge of forgetting. And yet, the sea is not cruel. It is simply vast. It hides what it must, preserves what it can, and in its stillness, it carries the stories forward. There are coral gardens that have grown over temples we'll never see, fish that swim through doorways that once framed kings. Beneath every current, there may lie another past, folded carefully away, waiting for a curious mind to stir the silt and rediscover what was never truly gone. Plato may have meant it as a warning, but what people heard was an invitation, an open sea, a mystery that could be solved. From that moment on, men began to search, some with ships, some with scripture, others with dreams. They wrote of islands glimpsed at sunset, of shapes rising from the deep, of strange lights beneath the water, and perhaps, just perhaps, a few of them found something, though they may not have understood what it was, because the ocean does not give up its truths easily. It speaks in riddles, in the shifting of currents, in the whisper of waves against forgotten stone. To listen, you must be still, very still, and even then, it tells you only what you are ready to hear. Tonight, we linger in that stillness, between myth and memory, between what is real and what we wish could be. Atlantis hovers there, not above or below, but between, a symbol, a memory, perhaps even a prophecy, a reminder that the greatest beauty we can imagine is often the most fragile. You can rest now. Let your thoughts drift like a slow current. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean, waves touching your feet, the horizon glowing faintly blue. Each breath you take becomes the pull and release of the tide, steady, calm, endless. The sea has seen everything. It has watched mountains rise, continents drift, empires fade into dust. It does not rush. It simply endures. And in that endurance, it teaches us something, that what disappears is never truly lost. It only changes shape, waiting to be found again in another form, another time, another story. So when you hear the word Atlantis again, don't picture destruction, picture continuity, the quiet turning of the earth beneath water, the persistence of memory. The story survives because we need it to, because somewhere within us, we too have sunken worlds, old hopes, forgotten moments, and perhaps the ocean is simply a reflection of our own depths. Let the night hold you for a while. Let the waves carry you without effort. The stars above are the same that shone over Plato's Athens, the same that shimmered over the sailors who once searched the Atlantic for that vanished shore. They are older than any story, and yet they too are part of it, shining through the same darkness that once hid an island. If you're still awake, know that this is only the beginning. The tale of Atlantis is larger than one island. It is a doorway to everything humanity has ever forgotten. In the parts to come, we will follow that doorway, through time, across myth, into science and silence alike. But for now, we remain beneath the waves, listening to the hush of the sea and the echo of an idea that refuses to drown. Somewhere in that stillness, a glimmer stirs, faint and waiting, and the ocean holds its breath. The water moves again, slowly, as though some ancient thought has awakened beneath the tide, and when the waves reach the shore once more, they carry something with them, a memory shaped into words, born long ago in a place of learning and quiet conversation. In Athens, the light of evening bends through narrow streets, brushing against stone walls worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The city is alive with sound, sandals on marble, distant laughter from a courtyard, and the murmuring of students gathering beneath the olive trees of the academy. This is where the dream begins to take form, not from the sea itself, but from the human mind, that strange instrument capable of imagining what it can never touch. A man stands among them, his robe loose at the shoulders, his eyes steady and calm. Plato, philosopher, observer of worlds both seen and unseen. He does not look like a storyteller, and yet tonight he speaks as one. His hands move gently as he describes a time before their own, a time of gods and heroes, a world that existed beyond the pillars of Hercules. The students listen, leaning forward, the air still around them. Plato tells them of a great island, larger than any known land, rich beyond measure, ringed by circular walls and channels that glittered in the sun. Its people were noble once, born of divine blood and mortal strength. They built temples to Poseidon, their guardian and father, and within those temples they kept the laws that bound them to the sea. He pauses for a moment, letting the idea linger in the minds of his students. An island so vast, so beautiful, that even the gods might envy it. But then his voice softens, almost a whisper, and he speaks of pride, of power untempered by wisdom. He says that when men forget humility, the earth remembers how to remind them. The students exchange quiet looks, unsure if he is describing history or warning them of the future. But Plato continues, his words weaving a tapestry of rise and ruin. The Atlanteans grew restless. They spread across islands and continents, their armies like tides flooding outward. And Athens, small but brave, stood against them. He speaks of courage, of resistance, and of divine retribution that follows when the balance is broken. Then he says it plainly, that in one single day and night, the island of Atlantis sank beneath the waves. The sea closed over it, leaving behind only mud where once stood towers and fields. The story ends not with fire or triumph, but with silence. As the sea became wider than before, it is quiet again in the olive grove, only the sound of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then one of the students asks, "Was it real, or only an idea?" and Plato smiles faintly, saying that even if it were only an idea, it was worth remembering, because ideas too can drown. Centuries later, his words will still echo across the world, copied by scribes, translated by monks, whispered by travelers who never saw the sea themselves, each generation reading it differently, one seeing a metaphor, another seeing a map, and somewhere between those readings, the myth begins to breathe on its own. The story drifts outward, across the Aegean, past the islands of Crete and Santorini, across the open Atlantic where storms churn and lightning touches the surface of the water. The further it travels, the more it changes. Atlantis becomes less a warning and more a promise, a treasure waiting to be found. But in the beginning, in Plato's calm voice beneath the olive trees, it was something gentler, a reflection on the fragility of civilization, on how easily greatness turns to arrogance, and how swiftly the sea can erase even the grandest of dreams. He used the word Atlantis only twice, but that was enough. The name caught like fire in the imagination of humankind. There are scrolls still preserved, copies of Timaeus and Critias, written in careful script, ink faded but legible. They speak of 10 kings ruling 10 regions of the island, of canals cut by hand, of walls plated in metal that gleamed red in the sunlight. The descriptions are so vivid that centuries later, people will swear he must have seen it himself. But Plato never claimed he did. He said the tale came from Solon, the wise lawgiver of Athens, who had heard it from priests in Egypt. It's a chain of memory that stretches backward through time, from Plato to Solon, from Solon to Egypt, from Egypt to the sea itself. Every retelling slightly altered, like a message carried by waves, distorted but not erased. And that is how Atlantis lives, not in stone, but in conversation. The philosophers of Athens argued endlessly about it. Some said it was allegory. Some said it was history. Aristotle dismissed it, saying Plato invented it to make a point. Others believed it pointed toward something real, some forgotten cataclysm lost in prehistory. But in the end, no one could prove or disprove it, because Atlantis was already more than a place. It was a language of loss. If you imagine that night, and the way those students must have felt, you can almost hear the beginning of humanity's great longing. To rediscover what was lost, to rebuild what was drowned, to bring back the perfection that slipped beneath the waves. It's the same longing that drives explorers to sail, scientists to dig, poets to dream. Atlantis became the symbol of all of them. And maybe that was Plato's truest insight, that he didn't just describe a lost island, he created a mirror, one that still reflects us every time we look into the water. Because what is civilization, if not an attempt to build something that will outlast the tide, And what is history, if not the record of how the tide always wins? The evening deepens in Athens. Torches flicker along the colonnades. Shadows stretch across the stones. Plato closes his scrolls. The students disperse, the sound of their sandals fading down the paths. Above them, the stars have risen, the same stars that watch over every sea. And somewhere, far away, beyond the reach of maps, an image stirs beneath the surface. An island remembered only by the night. The night thins over Athens. A cool breath moves through the olive leaves, and thought keeps speaking even after the voices grow quiet. The words Plato loosed into the air do not vanish. They travel from ear to ear, from page to page, almost like a tide that refuses to retreat. What began as a lesson in balance and pride begins to collect details, textures, the way a shell gathers layers as it turns in the surf. And those details come from another life, another set of footsteps, a journey that took place long before this evening beneath the trees. They say Solon went to Egypt, statesman, poet, lawgiver, carrying questions the way a sailor carries water, carefully. At Sais, in the temple of Neith, priests who guarded very old memories told him of floods, cities, and an island beyond the straits. 9,000 years, they said, a number that rolls like thunder across the mind, too large to grasp, too large to dismiss. Solon listened and brought the story home, but he never finished turning it into verse. Time turned the parchment brittle, and other hands took up the thread. So the tale passes to Critias, then to Plato. The names become a chain. The chain becomes a bridge between centuries, and across that bridge the image walks. Ringed canals, bull sacrifices beneath bright tiles, pillars faced with orichalcum, 10 kings bound by a law code nailed to the temple wall, a palace where sea breeze moved through bronze doors. The stronger the image becomes, the quieter the lesson must stand beside it. A lamp next to a window at night, easy to overlook, essential to see. Plato arranges the tale inside a larger conversation, not merely a story within a story, but a mirror placed inside another mirror, reflecting the nature of a just city and the temptations that undo it. Atlantis is not an enemy from outside. It is what a great city can become when it forgets the reason it became great. The empire that swells because it can. The pride that grows because no one remains to say enough. Athens in his telling does not grow louder. It grows steadier. A small people choosing limits, drawing a line and standing there. It is not triumphal music. It is a kind of stillness, a decision to be smaller than desire, and therefore stronger than ruin. The myth turns, and philosophy shows its face in the quiet, reminding the students that the hardest victories are not on fields, but within the soul. In the manuscript we inherit, the words break off. Critias ends like a shoreline that has been bitten by the sea, mid-thought, mid-breath, leaving a space where a conclusion ought to be. Scholars will argue whether a last page was lost or never written. But the effect is the same. A silence at the edge of the tale, a deliberate pause where imagination goes to work, filling the gap with waves. That gap becomes part of the teaching. When a story stops just before certainty, the mind keeps walking, testing, weighing, asking what the teacher wanted it to ask. Was Atlantis a place, a parable, a memory refracted through older floods and fallen coasts? Or was it the shape of temptation, cast upon the water so that students could see it without stepping into it? In the academy, the method is simple and deep. A question is placed like a smooth stone in the hand, turned, examined, passed to another hand, turned again. No one claims possession, because the stone is older than any holder. By the time dusk becomes night, the stone has warmed to the touch, and what matters is not where it came from, but what it reveals about the fingers that hold it. So the island grows in the mind, and at the same time it thins. It is detailed enough to picture, soft enough to doubt. It offers harbors, walls, markets, kings, and then dissolves into a single lesson spoken softly. That power without measure becomes its own flood. The sea in the story is not merely water. It is also the consequence that arrives when balance is forgotten. There are other threads woven through the dialogue, the way numbers are used like lanterns, bright enough to guide, not bright enough to blind, the way lineages of kings echo lineages of ideas, each son inheriting not just land, but the mood of the age before him, and the way law, even when nailed in bronze, cannot hold if the heart learns to read around it. Plato's voice does something careful. He praises skill, ships, canals, engines of prosperity, and then he sets a single feather on the scale: humility. Without that feather, the scale tips until stone behaves like water, and palaces behave like foam. And in that moment, the story ceases to be ancient. It becomes near as any city standing in the brightness of its own reflection. If you move your attention from the images to the frame, you can see the larger room the story sits within. A conversation about the best life, the best laws, the best shape for a city that wants to remain whole. The tale of the island is a demonstration, a living diagram drawn in myth, so the hand does not have to point too directly at the listener, because parables are softer than commands, and therefore more enduring. When later readers copy these pages, they sometimes underline the grand details: outer walls plated with metal, a temple whose roof shone like fire, a statue so vast a chariot could pass beneath its hooves. But in the margins there are smaller notes, a different kind of attention. Words like moderation, balance, measure, placed like pebbles to mark the path back out of the labyrinth. The labyrinth matters because the mind loves to wander. It moves toward splendor the way a moth moves toward light. So the teacher must give the light and also teach the moth how to circle it without burning. Atlantis is the lamp. The dialogue is the flight pattern drawn in air. There is a tenderness in the way Plato lets the sea do the final work. No tribunal, no execution. Only the earth and the water conversing in their own old language. A tremor, a night of rain, and then stillness, as if the world itself were capable of returning what has grown too large back to the quiet where it began. Think of the students walking home beneath those stars. They carry two images that do not quite fuse: a city of rings and an invisible balance that keeps any city from breaking its own circle. They will sleep and dream of walls that shine, and in the morning they will try to remember which part of the dream was praise and which part was warning. From this evening in Athens, the tale moves outward. It will cross tables where scholars argue gently. It will pass through the hands of copyists who trace each curve of each letter with devotion. It will wait in dark libraries while empires change flags outside the door. And each time it is read, the sea in the reader's chest will rise and fall a little differently, according to the weather of that age. Some centuries will prefer the lesson. Some will prefer the map. One age will say, "This is allegory," and another will whisper, "No, there is a shore somewhere that remembers those rings." But beneath both answers, the same current moves, steady, patient. The current that asks how we keep what we build from drifting into the deep. The dialogue keeps its tone, unhurried, letting the question do its own work. A small thing often noticed too late. Plato gives Athens no crowns for standing firm, no festivals, no triumphal feasts. Restraint receives no parade, because its victory is the absence of what would have followed. The silence after the storm that never came. The unbroken line of a wall because a hand refused to push. This pattern will speak to later minds who build theories from stone and water alike. Some will search the seabed with instruments more sensitive than any reed boat. Others will search texts with questions sharper than any spear. Both kinds of searching are children of the same story. Both believe that truth is best approached by circling it gently. Neither knows at first that the circling is part of the truth, the lesson practiced as a method. Return for a moment to the olive grove. A faint scrape of stylus on wax, the softest cough, a moth tapping a lamp. The teacher lets the last image of the island hang in the dark like a suspended drop. He does not try to catch it, because what is caught cannot teach as well as what is allowed to continue falling. And so it falls through time. This drop of a city, this shining circle, falling through scroll rooms, falling through monasteries, falling through the hands of sailors who cannot read but can listen. Each listener becomes a shore where the drop makes a small ring, then another, and those rings spread until they touch coasts that did not exist when the drop began. There is a quiet courage in accepting how the tale was given, unfinished, to resist the urge to mend the broken edge, to add a last paragraph that seals the room and snuffs the lamp, to leave the window open so night air can move through the page, carrying the salt of seas not yet sailed, to trust that a mind half lit will see more carefully than a mind flooded with certainty. The philosophers knew this craft, to bring the listener to a shore, and then point not at the land, but at the water line, to let the tide do the speaking that words cannot, and to step back when the wave arrives, so the listener can hear the sea for themselves. By now, the image of Atlantis in the student's imagination has settled into a low glow, not a beacon to steer by, but a horizon to measure against. When the city of rings appears again in other mouths, other manuscripts, it will already carry Plato's quiet weight, even if the new tellers do not know the grove, the stars, the precise way the night held the edges of his voice. And yet the world outside the dialogue will press closer. Merchants will want coordinates. Map makers will want lines. Sailors will want winds that lead to harbors with walls of red metal. Desire will make instruments out of parables. Longing will put prows where questions once stood. The story that warned against excess will begin to gather caravels at its feet, because humans have always loved the door more than the room it opens to, Gil. Soon the copy leaves the academy, carries its breath into other centuries. A monk will copy the name and pause. A scholar will argue with a friend and smile. A traveler will look west at dusk and feel a pull he cannot explain. This is how a philosopher's dream begins to harden into rumor, then soften again into symbol, then harden once more into a destination. The motion is tidal, advancing and retreating, each age leaving a different trace upon the shore. For now the grove is empty, the lamp has gone out, the wax tablet cools upon the bench. Somewhere down in the city a door closes. Somewhere on the hill an owl calls once. Above everything the constellations turn in their slow, patient dance, marking a sky that looks just as it did over the first sailor who learned the taste of salt, and far beyond the straits named for a hero. The open water answers without words, steady, immeasurable, waiting for the next mind to ask again. The water parts like breath drawn in. Light moves through it slowly, and then the city rises, not as ruin, not as memory, but alive, gleaming under a sun that bends around its towers. The island lies vast and circular, the heart of the sea beating quietly within its walls, each ring of land and water folding into the next like the pattern of a seashell. You can see it now, golden bridges crossing calm blue channels, white birds gliding over tiled roofs, faint music drifting through the air like a tide that never ends. At the center stands the Temple of Poseidon, enormous, serene, built from stones so smooth they catch the clouds. Its pillars shine with copper and tin. Its steps are carved with figures of horses and waves. Inside, beneath the vaulted dome, a statue gleams in the half-light. The god of the sea in a chariot drawn by creatures with silver manes. Their eyes seem alive, their gaze restless, as if they too can sense the weight of what surrounds them. Around the temple, the city hums. Merchants call softly in the markets. Voices echo against marble. Ships slide through narrow channels carrying spices, fabrics, copper. Children chase each other along the edges of fountains. The scent of bread and salt fills the air. Everything feels balanced, measured, the way only a civilization at its peak can appear. You can follow one of the bridges outward, across a channel where the water moves so clear it reflects the sky. Beneath it, you can see small boats passing under arches of stone, their sails folded, their cargo stacked neatly in woven baskets. Each ring of the island has its purpose, the inner ring sacred, the middle devoted to governance and art, the outer to farming and trade. Together, they form a perfect circle, a symbol of harmony between order and abundance. The people of Atlantis move with quiet confidence. They have never known failure. They believe the gods smile upon their work. Their houses rise 3 stories high, adorned with carvings that tell stories of storms conquered and beasts tamed. In the courtyards grow pomegranates, figs, and flowers that open only when the moon is full. At night, the streets are lit with lamps of blue oil, and the canals shimmer like veins of light running through the city's body. There is a sound beneath all this, so low you almost feel it more than hear it. The distant rhythm of machines powered by water, the turning of gears hidden beneath the surface. Atlantis was not merely rich, it was inventive. Its artisans learned to bend bronze and glass in ways the world would not rediscover for millennia. Even their clocks were said to mark not hours, but tides, each movement guided by the breath of the ocean itself. On the edge of the harbor, ships stand ready, their hulls dark and sleek, each one carved with a symbol of the twin dolphins of Poseidon, each one capable of crossing seas no other vessel dared to face. Beyond the docks, farms stretch across terraces shaped by hand, canals bringing fresh water from the mountains, feeding fields of barley and vine. You can almost smell it, the faint sweetness of ripe fruit carried on warm wind. But perfection has a kind of stillness that can feel uneasy. When everything is balanced, there is nowhere left to grow, only to expand. And so they do, quietly at first, exploring neighboring islands, building colonies along the coasts of Africa and the western shores of Europe. They bring gifts, trade, then laws, then soldiers, and at last, obedience. The Atlantean court sits within halls of white stone, vast and open to the sea. Their kings wear circlets of gold shaped like waves. Their thrones rest upon platforms carved from coral. Behind them hang tapestries dyed in the deep reds of crushed shell and root. The air smells faintly of incense and salt, the constant perfume of their empire. When they speak, their words are slow, practiced, confident. They speak of destiny, of guidance, of their duty to bring order to lesser lands. And yet beneath that calm there is hunger, a restlessness like wind before a storm. Even in their beauty, something begins to lean forward, searching for more. In the temple of Poseidon, the priests light fires that never extinguish. They pray for calm seas, for victory, for favor. Their voices rise together, echoing through the marble halls, their chants blending with the distant crash of the surf. But outside, beyond the temple walls, the tone of the city is changing. Artists once painted gods and nature intertwined. Now they paint conquests, battles, fleets of ships spreading across the world. Gold flows through the markets faster than grain, silver faster than song. Those who question the expansion are called dreamers. Those who remember the old laws are called fearful. The city that once mirrored the sea's rhythm now begins to beat with its own, louder, quicker, impatient. Still, it remains magnificent. Each morning the sun glides over roofs polished with crushed shells. Each night the moonlight catches on domes of glass and bronze. The air glows faintly blue where torches burn behind thin curtains of silk. Atlantis looks eternal, and perhaps that illusion is what makes it most fragile. Far from the city, the fishermen still go out to sea. They return with quiet eyes, speaking of changes they cannot name, currents where there were none, tremors that move beneath the surface, a faint warmth rising through the water. The priests dismiss it. The kings ignore it. The merchants laugh and say the world itself bends before their success. In one of the outer rings, near the boundary where the fields meet the tide, an old man sits alone beside a channel. He remembers a time when prayers were whispered, not shouted, when the sea was treated as a companion, not a servant. He watches the water lap softly at the stones and wonders if the ocean still listens, or if it is already decided. The young no longer ask such things. They build faster, trade farther, The sound of hammers and engines fills the air until even the gulls no longer circle above. Every sound of nature is swallowed by the rhythm of ambition. And yet, somewhere deep below, the sea keeps its count. It waits, it remembers, because every tide that rises knows where it must one day return. There are moments when the wind drops suddenly, when even the fountains fall silent. In those moments you can feel it, the unease, the faint vibration in the air that does not belong to storm or song. The marble underfoot feels warm. The lamps flicker though no breeze has touched them. And the priests hesitate for the briefest second before beginning their evening hymn. Still, the city carries on. The ships leave the harbor. The markets glow. The music continues. It is the kind of beauty that hides its own ending, too perfect to notice how thin the edge has become. You can almost see the future forming like mist over the water. Not yet here, but inevitable. For now, Atlantis stands radiant, every canal alive with reflection, every dome echoing with laughter, every heart certain that the sea belongs to them. But the sea belongs to no one. And even as the island breathes, the first tremors begin somewhere beneath its feet, so faint they might be mistaken for the sigh of the deep. The gods do not shout, they whisper, and their whispers sound a little like the shifting of sand, a little like the memory of balance returning. The day fades. The horizon turns the color of copper and dusk. The waves glow as if lit from below. The city continues to sing, unaware, and somewhere far beneath, pressure builds, not angry, not sudden, simply steady. The ocean listens and waits. The sound is small at first, like a heartbeat under stone. Most do not notice it. The laughter in the courtyards drowns it. The songs from the ships cover it. But deep in the wells, the water begins to tremble, sending tiny rings across its surface. The animals sense it. The birds lift from the roofs. The dogs turn restless. The horses stamp and pull at their ropes. In the temple, the eternal fires flicker. Smoke bends in strange directions. A priest lifts his eyes from the altar and feels the floor pulse beneath his knees. He whispers a prayer too quietly to be heard, and the echo of it disappears into the marble. Outside, the waves strike the harbor wall with a sound that no one has heard before. Then it comes again, stronger, a low roll through the ground, a deep voice rising from below. The markets shudder, the lamps sway. A single statue tilts and falls into the fountain with a splash that freezes the crowd. Someone laughs nervously. Someone else calls it an omen, but no one moves yet. The night that follows feels heavier than any before. Clouds gather where the sky was clear. The air thickens. The sea glows faintly, as if light were leaking from its depths. The fishermen who still linger on the outer docks tie their boats tighter, though they cannot say why. And far out beyond the last reef, the horizon bends, just slightly, as though the ocean itself has taken a slow breath. When dawn comes, it is pale and uncertain. The sun climbs weakly through veils of mist. The streets glisten with dew that tastes faintly of salt. People speak of strange dreams, of walls dissolving, of water running uphill. No one says it aloud, but everyone feels it. The invisible hand pressing gently against the heart of the island. By afternoon, the tremors return, sharper now. Walls groan. A bridge cracks. A child points to the sea and says it looks higher than before. The priests light every torch in the temple and sing louder to drown the sound of shifting stone. The king sends riders to the outer farms, but the roads twist and split before they arrive. And then the wind stops completely. The air turns warm, motionless, thick with a scent like iron and rain. For a moment, all of Atlantis seems to hold its breath, even the sea, perfectly still. The first wave is not large, only strange. It rolls inward without warning, lifting boats from their moorings, spilling gently over the docks. Children run to watch it, laughing, until they see that it does not retreat. The water remains, rising slowly, curling around their ankles, then their knees, then their waists. From the temple steps, the high priest raises his arms to the sky. His voice breaks as he cries to Poseidon, "Father, Lord of waves, hold your hand." But the sky answers with a sound like tearing metal. A flash splits the horizon, white fire turning the clouds to glass. The ground heaves, streets ripple like cloth. Statues topple, walls crumble inward. Towers tilt until they shatter against each other. The great canal bursts its banks, flooding through the city's veins with a roar that drowns every other sound. In one heartbeat, the perfect circle becomes a whirlpool of noise and color. People run, some toward the temple, some toward the hills, some into the sea itself as though it might spare them. Mothers clutch children. Soldiers drop their weapons. Merchants wade through gold that spills from shattered vaults. No one knows where to go, because everywhere is breaking. The earth itself is breathing too fast. On the harbor's edge, ships tear from their ropes, masts snap, sails catch fire from falling lamps. The sea turns black with oil and ash. The air fills with voices, thousands of them calling to gods who do not answer. The sky lowers until it feels close enough to touch. Somewhere deep below, the mountains beneath the island split apart. Magma surges into empty space. The sea rushes to meet it. Steam erupts upward like a pillar of cloud. Lightning dances within it, blue and gold. The island shakes once more. then begins to sink, not fast, not all at once, but steadily. Gardens slide beneath the waves. Rooftops vanish under boiling foam. Bridges disappear piece by piece. The temple stands longest, its columns breaking in slow rhythm, each one falling like the tolling of a bell. The statue of Poseidon leans forward, and for a moment it looks alive again, reaching for the sea it once ruled. From above, the island becomes a single spiral of motion, sand, smoke, and light twisting together, the color of copper and storm. The outer rings vanish first, then the middle, then the heart, and at last, there is nothing left but water folding over itself, closing as softly as a hand around a secret. The wind returns, carrying the smell of rain and stone. Where there was once laughter, there is only the hiss of foam on rock. The waves circle for hours, perhaps days, before settling into new rhythm. By the time the sun rises again, no trace remains, only open sea, far away on the mainland. Sailors wake to find their harbors dry and their rivers gone. Then the water comes back all at once, flooding fields, sweeping ships onto rooftops. They will tell their children of that night, when the world trembled and the ocean walked inland. And though none of them saw Atlantis, they will speak of it as if they had. In Athens, generations later, the story will become words on a page, a tale of hubris and ruin, of power devoured by its own reflection. But here, in this moment before the telling, it is only the sound of water reclaiming what it lent, the slow undoing of perfection, the return of silence to the place that once thought it could command the sea. The currents will carry fragments outward, shards of pottery, bits of metal, the memory of a song. They will drift for centuries, until they wash upon distant shores and spark the old question again. What was this? Where did it come from? And somewhere in every answer, the ocean will smile, because it knows it was all the same place. It was all the same moment. The sea smooths itself. The waves return to their patient cycle. The sunlight filters through a faint mist and touches nothing but water. Atlantis sleeps beneath it, warm and weightless, untouched by time. No map will ever mark its shape again. No anchor will find its soil. But its echo remains in every myth that follows. The reminder that the sea does not punish. It restores balance, and that beauty without humility always returns to the deep. The tide moves on, indifferent, eternal, and far above, gulls circle where a city once gleamed, their cries fading into wind that carries no memory of the names below. The ocean exhales, and the world begins again. The sea forgets nothing, but the world above soon does. Generations pass, shorelines change, mountains wear new names, and the ocean floor becomes a library written in silence. The sun keeps rising, unaware of what sleeps beneath it. And yet, from time to time, fragments rise to the surface, small enough to seem accidental, strange enough to stir a question. A polished stone that does not match the cliffs nearby, a shard of metal fused in a way no smith can explain. Fishermen pull them from their nets, turn them in the light, then toss them back, muttering of omens. On calm days, sailors speak of lights beneath the water, of towers seen through waves at noon. Each tale drifts into another. Each telling gathers salt and wonder until a legend begins to form again. In the age when scrolls replace memory and memory replaces truth, the name returns. Atlantis. It slips through the lips of poets. It hums through markets where traders from Egypt and Phoenicia exchange both goods and stories. By the time new cities rise upon old coasts, the lost island has already become part of their inheritance. No one can say where they heard it first, only that the sea once swallowed a nation greater than all others. In Athens, long after Plato's death, the Academy still speaks of it. Students recite his dialogues, wondering if their teacher meant the tale as history or metaphor. One writes notes in the margin. Perhaps the island still sleeps beneath the western waters. Another argues that the gods were never angry, only indifferent. The scrolls travel, copied by patient hands in candlelight. Each copy adds a word, omits another, as if the ocean itself edits the text through time. When the libraries of the old world burn, fragments survive, carried east, translated into tongues that shape the syllables differently but keep the same pulse. And though centuries darken the parchment, the glow of that drowned city remains untouched. The Middle Ages bring silence to philosophy but not to wonder. Sailors whisper of islands that appear and vanish. Monks illustrate maps with dragons at the edge of known seas, and in their margins, near the edge marked Oceanus Atlanticus, one may find a small circle, drawn faintly in ink, labeled only Insula Perdita, the lost island. No coordinates, no size, just a thought caught between prayer and curiosity. Then the age of rediscovery begins. Compass needles replace constellations. Wooden ships grow teeth of iron, and the horizon opens wider than any scripture promised. The men who sail westward carry Plato's story in their packs, half belief, half hope. If the world is round, they reason, then somewhere beyond the last cape lies the land that vanished, waiting for those brave enough to reach it In Lisbon, in Seville, in Venice, captains gather maps that spill rumor into geometry. They mark small crosses on the edge of parchment, and over wine they whisper that they will find not gold, but proof. A proof that the ancients knew more than the moderns, that what Plato wrote was not philosophy, but report. The sea listens to them, patient, its surface calm, hiding its smile beneath the spray. One of them, a man whose eyes have studied too many horizons, writes in his journal that he saw an island glowing at dusk. He approaches and finds only fog, thick, silver, smelling faintly of ash. When he returns, the island is gone. He writes again. Perhaps it was the edge of Atlantis. Perhaps I have dreamed it. Stories multiply. A fisherman from the Azores claims to have dredged a statue head from the deep. Another swears he has heard bells tolling underwater on still nights. Scholars laugh, then listen more closely, then begin to compile. The myth becomes a subject again, a bridge between ancient text and new ocean. In Florence, a scholar named Ficino translates Plato into Latin, his pen steady, his lamp burning late. He writes that Atlantis was a memory of divine order lost, that the fall of the island mirrors the fall of the soul. Others read his words and imagine marble columns glittering in the west. For them, the parable hardens once more into geography. Soon every explorer wants to be the one who finds it. They write letters to kings. Sire, if fortune favors us, we may yet rediscover the first empire of man. The patrons listen. Gold gleams in their eyes. Maps are spread upon tables of oak. The sea becomes a stage again, and myth becomes the compass that guides ships through fog and fear. But the sea gives nothing freely. Storms rise, ships vanish, rumors grow heavier with every loss. For each sailor who claims to have glimpsed towers beneath the waves, another insists the sea guards its dead too well, and all the while, the waves repeat their lesson, over and over, until the sound becomes language. It is in this age that curiosity begins to harden into study. Men with astrolabes and ink-stained hands begin to catalog the rumors. They trace routes across charts. They measure tides. They compare depths. Each conclusion seems to contradict the last. Each contradiction fuels another voyage. In Spain, an old priest writes that perhaps the lost island is the remnant of Noah's world. In Portugal, a navigator suggests it lies near the Canaries, submerged but not destroyed. In France, scholars debate whether the Americas themselves might be the proof, the survivors of a world before the flood. And in England, a poet dreams of a new Atlantis, not ancient, but yet to be, a nation built on knowledge and sea. The myth divides itself, becoming many Atlanteans, many oceans, one version holy, one scientific, one romantic. Each age rewrites the coordinates, each heart draws the map anew, and still the real ocean stays silent, its floor dark and smooth, its truths too deep for rumor to touch. But silence does not stop longing. It sharpens it, makes it precise. When men cannot find a thing, they begin to imagine it in greater detail. And so Atlantis grows again, higher, brighter, more perfect than before. Artists paint it as a city of crystal domes and silver causeways. Philosophers describe its laws. Engineers design its engines. Each invention of imagination becomes another form of memory. It is as if humanity cannot bear the idea of so much beauty lost, and so it rebuilds it, stone by invisible stone, thought by thought. The city lives again, not beneath the sea, but behind the eyelids of dreamers. Meanwhile, beneath the waves, the real island sleeps without regret. Coral grows through the halls. Fish drift where kings once sat. Light moves across the floor like the breath of time. The silence there is not mourning. It is peace. And perhaps that peace hums faintly upward, through currents, into the minds of those who still search. Because searching, after all, is a kind of remembering. When you look for what is gone, you give shape to what remains. The philosophers once said that knowledge is recollection. Maybe that is what the sea has been teaching all along. In one monastery near the Atlantic coast, a monk copying a map pauses. He hears the wind against the shutters, the steady rhythm of waves beyond the wall, and for a moment he sees, not with his eyes but within them, a circle of land and light. He dips his quill again and draws a faint ring upon the edge of the parchment, without knowing why. That ring will later guide a navigator's dream. That dream will become a voyage. That voyage will find a new continent, and the world will call it discovery, though it was memory wearing a different name. The centuries march forward. Telescopes rise where temples once stood. Compasses replace prayers. And yet, the question remains, was there ever an Atlantis? Or do we invent it anew because we cannot stand a world without mystery? Each new invention, each ship, each lens, each chart claims to bring clarity. But clarity has its own blindness. For when light becomes too strong, even truth hides behind it. So the search becomes its own mythology, not of place, but of pursuit. Every explorer a reflection of the first dreamer who tried to name perfection. Every failure another proof that imagination endures longer than evidence. And still, somewhere in the distance, the line of the horizon keeps whispering, "Come closer." The sea accommodates them all. It holds the wrecks gently. It wraps the instruments in sand. It lets the salt eat the ink from their logs until only faint ghosts of letters remain. And through it all, it hums softly. The same low sound that began the night the island sank. Not mourning, not warning, just balance, restoring itself again and again. Time moves. Centuries fold like waves overlapping. The philosophers of the Renaissance give way to the natural philosophers of the Enlightenment. They build machines that measure depth. They drop lead lines into darkness and count the seconds before they strike bottom. Each number, each note, another small prayer disguised as data. When the Enlightenment ends, the sea is still not mapped. Its heart remains shadow, its floor unknowable. And in that mystery, Atlantis endures, no longer a city of gods, but a question that refuses to close. For even as science claims victory, the poets continue to whisper. They say the ocean remembers shapes, that memory has weight, that sometimes the past is not gone, only deeper. And though the world calls it superstition, the sound of the tide against the shore still carries an older language. It says, "Come listen." It says, "Not all ruins are made of stone." The search will continue beyond this century, into the next, each new age convinced it is the first to look. But the ocean is patient. It knows that all seekers are its children, and that every compass eventually points home. For where else could the memory of Atlantis live, except in the same hearts that invented it? The last light of evening settles over calm water. Sails vanish into distance. Waves smooth themselves over the marks they left. Somewhere far below, the statues rest beneath coral crowns, their faces turned toward a surface they will never see again. And above, the world keeps turning, carrying its dream of the lost island wherever the tide allows. The search has only begun. And in the endless hush between waves, you can almost hear it, a single breath, as if the sea itself were remembering the shape of what it once destroyed. The world grows restless again, its coasts too small, its questions too many. The compass points outward, the wind sharpens its voice, and ships begin to multiply like thoughts that cannot stay contained. The dream of Atlantis has been waiting for them, folded into charts, humming through libraries and prayers. Now it takes on masts and sails, ready to drift once more across the blue. At the harbors of Portugal and Spain, the air smells of pitch and tar. The sound of hammers against wood echoes through morning fog. Carpenters build the bones of ships strong enough to test the horizon. Navigators whisper over new instruments. Merchants argue softly about routes and rewards. And in the shadows of all that industry, the same old hunger hides. The wish to find what was lost, to rediscover the perfection the ancients once knew. Columbus studies the maps of Ptolemy, the commentaries of Strabo, and between the lines of Plato, he sees a promise. He writes in his log that beyond the ocean, there must lie a great land, perhaps even the remnants of Atlantis. When he sails west, he carries not just the flag of Spain, but a ghost of that older island, steering by faith and mathematics both. Weeks pass. The stars wheel above unfamiliar water. The crew grows restless. Their prayers sound like arguments, their fears like weather. And yet one night, the sky clears, and Columbus looks west into a darkness that feels almost conscious. He writes again, "I believe we shall find not only new lands, but old truths hidden from mankind." When he reaches the shores of the New World, he writes in wonder, "This must be the other side of paradise." He walks among palm groves, speaks to people whose names no European tongue can yet shape. And in the quiet of his tent, he thinks of Plato's island, of the flood, of the long circle of history closing. He believes he has touched the edge of that circle, though he cannot yet see its shape. Others follow: Cabral, Vespucci, Magellan, their ships tracing lines across oceans that had been blank for 1,000 years. Each voyage claims discovery, yet all of them rediscover only what was always there. They find mountains shaped like temples, rivers broad as seas, and everywhere, the haunting familiarity of forgotten grandeur. Ruins older than any memory they carried from home. Carvings that spoke of gods and floods and golden ages. They begin to wonder, quietly, could Atlantis have left its children here? Could the people of the West be the descendants of the drowned empire, scattered before the sea took the rest? It is not history they chase now, but ancestry, a way to tie new lands to old myths. Because to conquer a thing fully, one must also inherit its legend. Cartographers in Seville draw wide blue maps and mark them with names that blend theology and hope. Antillia, Brazil, St. Brendan's Isle. Each name a prayer disguised as geography. Each one secretly asking the same question. Where is the island that once was everything? In the markets of Europe? The printed word begins to hum with this fever. Pamphlets speak of golden cities, of temples under jungles, of fountains that restore youth. Atlantis becomes a code, a shared idea for everything the heart wants the world to hold somewhere beyond reach. It is not a single island anymore. It is an attitude, a compass of yearning that points always west. The poets write of it, the priests debate it, the sailors swear they have seen it. Some say it lies beneath the Sargasso Sea, where the water turns green and still. Others say it hides beneath the Caribbean, its towers visible only on the calmest dawns. Each account contradicts the next, and still the belief grows. Because belief is the oldest form of navigation. On one such voyage, a captain named De Leon writes of a light that moved beneath his ship. He says it glowed pale blue, tracing the shape of a road through the depths. His men swore they saw shadows of arches, columns rising from the floor of the sea. When they returned home, their story was dismissed as exhaustion, but the rumor did not fade. The church listens cautiously. Atlantis sounds too much like Eden, too much like creation rewritten by another hand. Some call it heresy, others a revelation. If such a land existed, they say, perhaps it was destroyed not for pride, but to preserve something pure from later corruption. Meanwhile, the explorers keep sailing. They find new coasts, name them for saints, claim them for kings. Every new island feels like an echo of the first. Every discovery another verse in the same poem. Even when they stand upon foreign sand, their eyes are fixed on the horizon, searching for something that still lies just beyond it. By the late 15th century, the myth and the map have become inseparable. Atlases show the outlines of continents still incomplete, wide spaces labeled unknown lands. In those spaces, scholars place small circles, dotted lines, faint words, possible remnants of Atlantis. And though none of them admit belief, none can bring themselves to erase the mark. The ocean responds in its own language. It gives them storms to remind them of its power, fog to test their patience, calm seas to make them forget fear. Each voyage becomes both discovery and confession. The sea listening quietly to the minds that cross it, because to seek the lost world is to admit that something in ourselves remains lost too. In England, Francis Bacon writes The New Atlantis, imagining an island governed not by gods, but by knowledge. He fills it with laboratories and libraries, a nation built upon understanding instead of faith. It is fiction, but also prophecy, a dream of a rational world, still haunted by the ruins of a myth. Other writers follow. Thomas More imagines utopia. Campanella dreams the city of the sun. Each a reflection of the same wish, to rebuild what was lost, to prove that humanity could rise again without repeating its pride. The ghost of the drowned island moves silently through all their pages, shaping their hopes, softening their warnings. Across the seas, colonies take root. Their governors speak of new Edens. Their settlers call themselves founders of a new world. But beneath their optimism lies the same echo, the same old hunger that once filled the halls of Atlantis. To create perfection, to master nature, to build a paradise that the gods themselves could not unmake. The ocean watches again. It rolls against the wooden hulls, listening to the old ambition spoken in new tongues. Sometimes it answers with calm, sometimes with storms that tear masts like twigs. The pattern begins again, the rhythm older than history, desire followed by discovery, discovery followed by silence. In the cities of Europe, returning sailors fill taverns with stories. They speak of coasts that shine at night, of ruins glimpsed beneath clear water, of native legends telling of floods long ago. Each tale feeds the myth, And soon, no one remembers where the stories end and the longing begins. Even the skeptics find themselves dreaming when they look out to sea. A map maker in Antwerp draws a new world and marks in its center a faint circle. He calls it Insula Atlantis Reperta, the rediscovered island. He shows it to his patron, who smiles, not because he believes, but because the thought feels comforting, that something once lost could still be found, that perfection could return. Hope sells better than truth, and so the circle remains, printed, copied, believed. In universities, lectures are given about the floods that shaped the earth, about the possibility of continents now drowned. Natural philosophers argue that if mountains can rise, surely others can sink. They describe vast cataclysms, shifting seas, the very skin of the planet alive with movement. The myth begins to wear the clothes of science, and the scientists begin to speak with the tone of poets. In quiet studies lit by candlelight, scholars copy Plato's words again. They trace the descriptions of canals, walls, and temples. Some whisper that the island may have been Crete. Others insist it was the Azores. A few believe it still lies waiting in the Western Ocean. Every theory is a kind of devotion, every argument a prayer to be the one who finally reads the sea correctly. The Atlantic becomes crowded with speculation. Every expedition that vanishes becomes proof. Every survivor who returns becomes prophet. The water carries both truth and illusion together, mingling them until even the most rational minds begin to blur their edges. Atlantis is no longer a story told at firesides. It has become the quiet pulse beneath the world's new confidence. And yet, the deeper they look, the less they find. The ocean keeps its promise, holding its silence like a jewel. The explorers die, the maps fade, the wooden ships rot into coral, and still the waves fold over them without a ripple of acknowledgement. Centuries will pass before the world learns to measure the sea's floor with sound, but even then, the old dream will not fade, because Atlantis is not a question science can close. It is an ache that memory keeps open, a wound shaped like hope, too beautiful to heal. The age of exploration ends. Empires rise where colonies began. Cities glow again along new shores. But at night, when ships drift motionless beneath strange constellations, the sailors still lean against the rail and stare into darkness. They still see what they think are towers, glimmers, movements below the surface, and they still whisper the name, not as scholars, not as conquerors, but as children remembering a story told long ago. The horizon stretches wider now. The world feels mapped and claimed, yet the sea still holds one more secret. A secret it does not guard out of cruelty, but out of mercy. Because not every truth needs to be found. Some only need to be remembered. And in that remembering, the story of Atlantis lives again. The tide moves, carrying the light of the stars across its skin. The ships pass, their lanterns flickering like small thoughts upon an endless page, and somewhere beneath them, the old island sleeps, the sound of its name rising through the water like a sigh that never ends. The search continues, the journey remains, and the ocean waits, patient as ever, knowing that every age will come back to ask again. The centuries turn, sails become steam, sextants become telescopes, and the ocean begins to reveal itself not through myth, but through measurement. Yet for all the progress, the sound beneath the surface remains the same, steady, low, familiar. The age of science arrives like a dawn over water, pale, cautious, full of promise, and even now, Atlantis stirs somewhere in that light, changing shape once more, not lost, not found, but translated. The philosophers give way to naturalists, men who collect shells and stones, men who look at fossils and see history written in spirals. They speak not of gods, but of strata, layers upon layers of forgotten worlds pressed into the bones of the earth. If mountains can rise from the sea, they reason, then islands can sink into it. And if the planet changes, then perhaps the story of a drowned city is not imagination, but memory misread. In London, in Paris, in Copenhagen, salons fill with maps drawn from new voyages. Lines of latitude cross like threads of fate. Islands appear where no islands exist. Others vanish when ships go to find them. Somewhere between these discoveries, the story of Atlantis begins to sound less like poetry and more like evidence waiting to be found. The dream adjusts its vocabulary. Myth becomes hypothesis. Hope becomes theory. Early oceanographers lower weighted lines into the deep, counting the seconds until they strike bottom. They draw careful notes, depths and coordinates, the handwriting precise, the ink smudged by salt air. Each number is a heartbeat of curiosity, a pulse of faith that even the abyss can be measured. And though the results vary wildly, each small success adds another thread to the invisible net of knowledge. A man named Matthew Morey charts currents and winds. He calls the sea a great engine, a moving system, alive with predictable order. He believes that beneath the waves lies a world shaped by logic, not legend. And yet, when he describes the vast plateaus that rise from the Atlantic floor, the old name slips again into conversation. Another century begins, and science steps fully into the water. Instruments improve, ships grow stronger, cables stretch across the ocean to carry words from one continent to another. When the first telegraph line is laid across the Atlantic, engineers map the ridge upon which it rests. They describe it as a long mountain range running north to south, dividing the ocean like a scar. Immediately, the imaginations awaken. If there is a ridge, could it be the spine of a lost continent, the last remnant of the land Plato spoke of? In 1872, a ship named Challenger leaves England on a voyage to study the depths. It sails for 3 years, collecting samples, temperatures, soundings. When it returns, the data fills 50 volumes, and among its many discoveries, the ridge appears again, stronger, higher, unmistakable. The newspapers seize upon it. They call it proof. They print diagrams of Atlantis rising from the abyss, its peaks now islands, its valleys still hidden. The scientists hesitate, careful with their language, but the public does not. The myth rushes back into daylight, wearing a new badge called evidence. Writers follow swiftly. Ignatius Donnelly, an American congressman with the heart of a poet, publishes Atlantis, the antediluvian world. He fills it with comparisons, flood myths, geological speculation, linguistic parallels. He argues that all civilizations descended from one source, a mother culture drowned beneath the Atlantic. His words ripple across continents, translated into dozens of languages, debated, admired, mocked, believed. The book becomes a bridge between faith and curiosity. Scholars criticize it, priests condemn it, but readers devour it. They want the world to be connected. They want the gaps in time to close. Atlantis once again becomes the answer to everything unsolved. The hidden key behind pyramids, behind myths, behind the spark of civilization itself. The sea listens quietly, as it always does. It lets the theories multiply. It lets the instruments grow finer. Dredging begins. Samples of rock and clay are hauled up from the floor, examined under glass. Every piece of basalt is weighed like a word from an oracle. Every coral branch studied like a line of scripture. And then, something unexpected. The rocks from the ridge are found to be volcanic, young, alive, not remnants of a continent, but of fire that never cooled. The sea gives a hint of its true nature. Shifting plates, creation and destruction intertwined. The scientists publish their results, gently correcting the dream. But dreams are stubborn. They survive correction. They learn to wear the truth like camouflage. So the believers move the island. Some place it nearer the Azores, some in the Caribbean, some in the cold waters near Iceland. Each claim supported by shards, by maps, by the same hunger that once filled Plato's students under the olive trees. Atlantis expands again, no longer one island, but a constellation of possibilities. Meanwhile, technology dives deeper. Diving bells descend into the dim green world below, their glass panes trembling. Men peer out and see shapes their minds can barely interpret. Rocks like walls, corals like spires. They return certain they have seen the edge of something once alive, and their certainty fuels another generation of searchers. Submarines follow, sonar follows, sound becomes sight, and sight becomes proof. The ocean floor unfolds like a dark map beneath pulses of sound, showing valleys wider than nations, mountains higher than Everest. The scale of it humbles even the proudest scientist. The sea's architecture far greater than any myth imagined, but humility is a rare visitor in discovery. So they continue to name and measure. They find plate boundaries, trenches, ridges, and still they wonder, could a civilization have stood upon these heights before the last ice melted, before the sea reclaimed its floor? New theories bloom like coral. One speaks of sudden crustal shifts, another of comets striking oceans and turning coasts to vapor. Each paper begins with data, ends with conjecture, and somewhere between those two, Atlantis reappears, the eternal placeholder for what science has not yet explained. In the 20th century, the imagination acquires electricity, movies, radio, print. Carry the myth faster than ships ever could. Now anyone can close their eyes and see the island in color. Glass domes, glowing towers, a civilization that mastered energy before the dawn of ours. Archaeologists begin to search inland instead of beneath the sea. They look to Crete, to Thera, to the ruins of Akrotiri buried beneath volcanic ash. The discovery there is dazzling. Frescoes still bright after 3,000 years. Streets and pipes preserved as if built yesterday. The scientists call it evidence. The poets call it prophecy. And both are right, in their own ways, because every discovery reveals not just what was, but what we are still trying to remember. Atlantis changes again, becomes not one island, but many. Not a location, but an idea of loss made tangible. Deep-sea probes follow, mechanical eyes peering into perpetual night. They find thermal vents where life blooms without sunlight, creatures of fire and darkness twisting in slow dances. The scientists call it evolution, but somewhere inside the same awe that filled Plato's listeners still breathes. The ridge that once carried a telegraph cable is mapped completely. It stretches for thousands of miles. The spine of the world. It rises, splits, and births new crust each day. From that understanding, plate tectonics is born. The truth behind all continents wandering. The irony is perfect. The discovery that disproves Atlantis also fulfills its promise. There was a lost world, not of temples but of terrain, an ancient unity broken apart by time, its fragments drifting like nations of memory across the face of the sea. Science explains what myth once dreamed, and yet the dream refuses to die, because explanation removes the wonder from the surface, but leaves it intact within the soul. And humans, being creatures of depth, always return to that inner ocean. Oceanographers continue their work. Sonar becomes satellite. Depth becomes data. We map the floor with lasers and sound, uncovering mountains and plains as vast as any continent. Still the question flickers: could a city, even briefly, have stood where now only fish and silt remain? In quiet offices, late at night, scientists stare at the maps longer than they admit. The patterns of ridges and plateaus form shapes that look almost deliberate. They shake their heads, smile, and close the files, but the image lingers, the way a melody lingers after the song ends, because beneath the language of fact, the human heart still beats to the rhythm of story. It cannot help it. It was built that way. We may measure the ocean, but we still dream of what it hides. We may name its ridges, but we still imagine the sound of bells ringing far below. The age of science becomes the age of machines. Exploration turns inward, outward, and downward all at once. Satellites circle the planet. Submarines crawl across its floor, each one a kind of prayer in metal, each one whispering to the deep, "Show us." The ocean answers softly, as always, with riddles. It shows us hydrothermal vents where the earth breathes. It reveals trenches so deep they curve light itself. And in doing so, it reminds us that even knowledge cannot replace humility. For all we have learned, we still know less than a drop of the sea's mind. And somewhere within that mind, the dream of Atlantis continues, not as delusion, but as echo. Because what we call myth is often just the memory of our own beginnings, waiting for us to recognize it under another name. Science may draw the maps, but myth still holds the compass, and so the two walk side by side, one holding the lamp, the other the direction. They do not argue, they need each other. The story gives meaning to the data gives the story shape. Together they build the only vessel that has ever truly crossed the ocean of time. Imagination. The tide moves again, not forward or backward, but in circles, each generation believing it stands at the edge of understanding, each one discovering only what the last forgot. And through it all, the sea remains, patient, silent, smiling beneath the weight of our curiosity. The machines shut down. The researchers sleep. The ships rest at harbor. Out beyond their lights, the dark remains unbroken, and somewhere beneath it, the old island breathes in rhythm with the planet, neither gone nor found, only waiting for the next question to fall like a pebble into its depth. The ripples spread, touching past and future alike. Atlantis continues, not as place, but as pattern. Every lost city, every vanished age, every forgotten truth is another ring in the same eternal water. And still the tide whispers, the science will come and go. But wonder always stays. The sea has more than one memory, and each ocean tells its story in a different language. The Atlantic keeps its secrets close, speaking in low tones of pressure and storm. But in the Indian Ocean, and across the endless blue of the Pacific, there are other whispers, names that drift between myth and map, continents that appear and vanish again like mirages of the deep, long before satellites traced coastlines, before science found the slow dance of plates. People in faraway lands looked at the same stars and asked the same questions. Where did we come from? And what fell beneath the water before we arrived? They found bones of strange animals in places they did not belong, shells on mountaintops, volcanic islands rising from nothing. And they understood, in their own way, that the world was not fixed, that land could move like a tide too slow to see. So they told stories to explain what the earth would not say. In the south of India, along coasts washed by monsoon winds, there grew the legend of Lemuria, a vast land that once stretched across the Indian Ocean, connecting Africa to Asia, cradle of early life, the home of forgotten peoples now scattered by the sea. The name came later, the reasoning older, the instinct eternal, that the missing pieces of the world must lie somewhere beneath the waves. Naturalists of the 19th century, studying lemurs on the islands of Madagascar and the Comoros, noticed their cousins in India. They saw the same creatures divided by impossible distance, and concluded there must once have been a bridge of land between. They gave that invisible continent a name born from the animal itself, Lemuria, a kingdom built from logic and longing alike. It was not myth then. It was science, the best explanation for what the world refused to align. But as the years moved on, and other theories rose, Lemuria slipped gently out of the journals and back into the imagination. The gap it filled in the maps became a doorway for dreamers. Theosophists spoke of Lemuria as an ancient paradise, home to beings of light, ancestors of mankind, a place that sank not because of sin or storm, but because its purpose was fulfilled, its knowledge passed onward through time. They described tall forms with golden skin, temples carved from crystal, mountains that touched clouds too soft to rain. They said the Lemurians did not die. They transformed, becoming spirits that still guard the balance of the planet. The sea around them was not their end, but their cocoon, and the ocean, once again, became the veil between what is seen and what is remembered. Scholars smiled politely at such visions, but the stories endured, because every myth of drowning hides a truth about transformation. Every sunken world reflects the fear that what we love most may vanish, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, nothing ever truly does. Across the world, another name takes shape, Mu, a land said to have risen and fallen in the Pacific, wider than any ocean chart could contain. Its legend begins in the words of missionaries who read symbols on Mayan tablets and saw patterns where there were none. They wrote of an empire older than Atlantis, stretching from Asia to the Americas. Bound by wisdom that predated the flood, the story travels quickly. It appears in pamphlets, in seances, in letters exchanged between continents. Writers describe a golden age when humanity lived in harmony with the stars, until pride again disturbed the balance. The same melody as before, different key, different sea. Scientists protest, pointing to shifting crusts, to islands that rise and fall with earthquakes. But for the believers, Mu is not a geological theory. It is a memory carried in the blood of the ocean. The Pacific, after all, is vast enough to hide anything. Its floor deeper than imagination. Its silence older than language. And so the story spreads among those who listen to the earth with the ear of wonder rather than the eye of proof. They see in every atoll the top of a buried mountain, in every reef the outline of a vanished temple. When the tide recedes far enough, when the water clears on certain days, they claim you can still glimpse the shapes below, not ruins, but reflections, the echo of civilizations too gentle to survive the noise of time. The pattern repeats. Every continent, every culture holds some version of a drowned beginning. In Japan, they speak of Ryugujo, the dragon palace beneath the sea. In Polynesia, they tell of Hawaii, the homeland beneath the waves. In the north, the Celts whisper of Lyonesse. In the west, the Irish of High Brazil, each name another thread woven into the same great net of forgetting. The modern world calls these coincidences. The older world called them remembrance, because memory travels like water, seeping through cracks in time. It carries shapes and stories wherever it flows, changing only their accent, never their meaning. When geologists discover the concept of continental drift, the old myths sigh in recognition. The earth itself moves as the ancients always suspected. Lands connect, then drift apart. Mountains rise where seas once were. Seas form where mountains once stood. The world breathes in slow motion, exhaling continents, inhaling oceans, and in that breath, the old names find their place again. Lemuria becomes a symbol for the connections between what was separated. Mu becomes a reminder that even the largest things can vanish. Atlantis remains the mirror that shows us why we look at all. In the early 20th century, explorers armed with compasses and curiosity turn toward the Pacific. They dive in suits of brass and glass, peer through round windows into twilight. They find volcanic rock, coral plains, and the faint traces of cities made by fish and current alike. Nothing conclusive, but enough to feed the same old hope. The poets continue what the divers cannot. They describe the Pacific as the memory of another world, a place where creation began again after the flood, where spirits of the old world learned to sing in whale song, every island a syllable, every current a phrase, the whole ocean one long poem still being written. And the scientists, though they speak of subduction zones and trenches, cannot entirely silence the awe that hums beneath their equations. They name the plates, the ridges, the faults. But deep down they know the Earth's movement is not random. It follows patterns older than reason, rhythms we can sense but never quite predict. In quiet laboratories, samples of basalt are heated, pressed, measured. The data shows how the continents once fit together like pieces of a single shell. Africa kissing South America, India leaning into Asia, Australia drifting away from Antarctica like a boat cut loose. The scientists call it Pangea, the Great Hole, and suddenly every legend of a united Earth, every tale of a lost world, seems not so foolish after all. They realize that once, there truly was one land, one sea, one cradle for all things, and though it broke apart over eons, its memory stayed in the bones of every culture that followed. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, all of them different names for the same human ache, the desire to return to a time when everything was still one, before division, before distance, before loss. The ocean knows this feeling too. Its currents weave between continents like the threads of a tapestry trying to close its own tear. It carries salt from one shore to another, so that every beach tastes faintly of its opposite. Even now, when you stand at the edge of any sea, you are touching every other. That is why the myths overlap, not because they copied each other, but because they were all listening to the same water, different tongues, same tide, every wave repeating the same phrase. Once we were whole. As the modern world races forward, the myths grow quieter, but they do not fade. They hide in the corners of literature, in the hum of ocean documentaries, in the eyes of those who still stare too long at the horizon. They wait for moments when certainty falters, and the need for wonder rises again. Then they return, gentle as foam, ancient as gravity. In the late 20th century, a new generation of explorers dives deeper than any before. They send cameras where light cannot go. They map the sea with echoes and pulses. They find no lost continents, but they do find evidence of entire landscapes drowned after the last ice age. River valleys now miles beneath. Forests turn to ghostly patterns in sediment. Doggerland between Britain and Europe. Sundaland beneath Indonesia. The Bering Land Bridge joining Asia to the Americas. Each one real, measurable, undeniable. And as they appear on maps once again, scientists and storytellers alike feel a chill of recognition, because it means the old memories were not wrong, only misnamed. The sea had swallowed worlds before. It would do so again. Every myth of flood and loss carried a truth of its own. The continents do not rest. They breathe, rise, collapse, and rise again. Creation and destruction sharing the same pulse, the same endless patience. So perhaps Lemuria and Mu were not false, only misplaced. Perhaps they were never single continents, but the sum of all the worlds that sank, the collective memory of every shoreline lost to time, each legend a finger pointing toward the same horizon, the one that still glows faintly blue at the edge of knowledge, the one that says, there is always more. There is always something waiting just beneath. The ocean stretches wider now, filled with cables, ships, data, and still silence. No matter how much we measure, we cannot erase the unknown. It is woven into the salt, folded into the deep, humming softly with every wave, a reminder that even in an age of proof, mystery remains the truest current of all. And so the names endure: Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, each one a different accent of the same word, longing. They are not maps to be followed, but mirrors held to the heart of the earth, and the reflection they show is always the same, the endless dance between what is found and what chooses to stay hidden. The tide moves, continents drift, time folds upon itself, and through it all, the water remembers, not the cities or the kings, but the feeling, the quiet awe of being small before something vast. That feeling, after all, is the oldest continent of all, and it has never sunk. The earth beneath us is older than any story, and yet every story begins there, beneath the myths and the music, beneath the marble and the salt. There is stone, shifting, breaking, healing itself again. The continents do not rest. They move with the slow patience of eternity, and in that motion, all our legends of floods and lost worlds find their reflection. Long before names like Atlantis or Lemuria ever reached a page, the planet was already writing its own versions. Supercontinents gathered and drifted apart. Oceans opened and closed. Pangaea, Gondwana, Laurasia, their names sound like incantations, but they are maps of memory. They tell us that loss is not invention. It is the natural rhythm of the earth itself. We look at the crust of the planet as something solid, permanent, but it breathes. The ridges of the sea floor spread apart as magma rises, creating new skin where none existed. Elsewhere, tectonic plates collide, fold, and vanish beneath each other. Mountains rise where once there were seas, and seas return to claim them again. The story of a drowned world is not superstition. It is geology told too early. The ancients saw mountains that looked like waves turned to stone. They saw shells embedded in cliffs high above the shore. They did not have the word uplift. They had only awe. And awe, when translated into language, becomes myth. When the ice ages came, the world changed faster than memory could follow. Glaciers swallowed valleys, seas retreated, rivers found new beds. Then the ice melted, and the water rose hundreds of feet. Coastlines shifted, islands vanished, cities along the shore disappeared beneath the returning tide. The archaeologists find them now. Stone walls buried in silt, hearths drowned in mud, tools resting where human hands left them thousands of years ago. In the Black Sea, beneath the Mediterranean, off the coasts of India and Japan. Each discovery a quiet confirmation that the flood stories were not fiction, only history viewed from the shore. The sea remembers, the land forgets, and between them we build our explanations. To understand this planet is to understand loss. Every era leaves a layer. Every layer hides another. Volcanoes erase forests. Earthquakes rewrite rivers. The ground itself is a storyteller that never uses the same sentence twice. And when humans arrived, they learned to read those shifting lines. We became interpreters of change. We carved the movements of stars into myths, the rumble of earth into gods, the sound of waves into morality tales. Each culture found its own way to name the same pattern. Creation followed by destruction, destruction followed by renewal. It was not pessimism, it was observation. Science would later give these cycles new names: subduction, convection, sedimentation. But the essence remained the same. The world dies and is reborn every day, only slower than we can see. In this truth, Atlantis becomes not a city, but a process. Not one island sinking, but all islands sinking in turn. Each generation builds, thrives, and yields. And the sea, as always, keeps the score. Deep in the oceanic crust, magnetic minerals preserve the direction of the Earth's field when they cooled. They form stripes across the sea floor, alternating bands of polarity like the planet's heartbeat recorded in stone. From them we learn that the oceans are younger than we imagined, constantly renewed, never still. The very bed that swallowed Atlantis was born long after Plato's words were written. So the myth is older than its supposed subject. It remembers not a single event, but the recurring truth that the sea always takes back what is borrowed. Flood myths appear in every corner of the world because floods have touched every shore, and what is repeated by all cannot be false, only misunderstood. Consider the lands now beneath the North Sea. Once a vast plain, rich with rivers and animals. When the ice melted, the waters rose and covered it, leaving fishermen centuries later to dredge up bones of mammoth and tools of flint. Doggerland, the Europeans call it. the lost world of their own ancestors. In Southeast Asia, the story repeats. Beneath the Java Sea and the Strait of Malacca lies Sundaland, a drowned subcontinent where forests once stretched unbroken from Indochina to Borneo. There too the myths speak of a golden land swallowed by the ocean, the same rhythm, the same pattern, carried by different winds. The science aligns gently with the song. For every myth of sudden catastrophe, there is evidence of slow disaster. Tides creeping upward year by year, earthquakes softening the land, rains carving away memory, until one night the ocean arrives not as stranger, but as overdue guest. We find coral where there should be forest, sand where there should be soil. We find ruins beneath silt that match the angles of temples still standing above. We find salt lines in caves high above the water's edge. And we understand that the stories of floods were written not from imagination, but from survival. The sea does not hide its truth. We simply forget how to listen. It speaks through erosion, through the tilt of cliffs, through the pattern of shells fossilized in granite. Every coastline is a sentence in the planet's diary. Every island a comma, every trench a pause too deep for words. And somewhere between those pauses, we recognize ourselves. When plate tectonics was finally understood, the pieces fell into place. The continents were not static. They drifted like leaves on a pond, where once all land was one. It split, carried by the slow churning beneath. And with that realization, every legend of separation suddenly felt like remembrance. Atlantis had always been about connection, the breaking of unity, the loss of balance, the sorrow of division. The earth itself had lived that story again and again. It was not punishment. It was motion. Now the oceanographers trace this motion with satellites. They can watch continents move a few centimeters each year. They can see rifts open in Africa where new seas will one day form. They can predict where coasts will sink and where mountains will rise. And in doing so, they become part of the same rhythm they study. They measure loss, but also creation. They map what changes, but never what ends. Because in the story of the earth, there are no endings, only transformations written slowly enough to look like silence. Under the Pacific, entire plates slide into darkness, their edges melting, their shapes erased. From that molten memory, new islands are born, volcanoes that rise from the sea like thoughts surfacing from sleep. Every eruption is an echo of the same event that once took Atlantis, a reminder that the sea does not destroy, it recycles. The myths, then, are not false. They are translations of these geologic truths. They speak in the language of feeling what science later deciphers with numbers. They preserve not coordinates but emotions, not data but meaning, the awe of watching the world change faster than words can follow. That awe is the common ancestor of myth and science both. It built temples and telescopes alike. It made us look outward and inward with equal reverence. It reminded us that we are not separate from the world's movement. We are its continuation. Even now, as satellites orbit and sensors hum in trenches miles deep, we still feel the pull of the old story. We still build our houses near the water, still dream of paradise on distant shores. We still rebuild after every storm as if the next one will be different. We still whisper the same words. It won't happen here, knowing it always does. The truth beneath the myth is not buried in the seabed. It lives in our reflection. We invent lost worlds because we sense how easily our own can vanish. We tell of floods because the tide is part of us. We name the vanished cities because we know one day ours will join them. And yet, there is comfort in that continuity. The same sea that covered their walls now carries our ships. The same current that erased their names now connects our continents. The same salt that filled their lungs now moves through our veins. In this way, nothing is truly lost. It only changes its form. Stone into sand, city into coral, myth into memory. The sea is both tomb and cradle, both archive and artist. It keeps the shapes we love by letting them dissolve. That is the quiet mercy of geology. It shows us that permanence was never the goal, that the world is meant to move, to shed its skin, to rewrite itself without end, and that what we call ruin is only another word for renewal. So when we speak of Atlantis, or Lemuria, or Mu, we are not chasing ghosts. We are reading the earliest chapters of the planet's autobiography, written in lava, in limestone, in silt. Each myth a translation of that larger text, each story a footnote in the language of movement. The earth still speaks it, through tremors, through tides, through the hum of tectonic plates beneath our feet. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the syllables forming. They sound a little like waves, a little like wind, a little like the heartbeat of time itself. The truth beneath the myth is that both are one. Myth is how we felt the earth move before we could measure it. Science is how we measure what we still feel. And the sea, always between them, translating endlessly, never tired, never done. The tide turns, quietly, endlessly. The continents shift, the stories drift, and the two continue to mirror each other, neither complete, neither false, both alive, and through them, the planet keeps remembering itself, one wave at a time. The ocean is never still, even when the world above believes it has been conquered. Ships trace its surface with engines instead of wind. Planes cross its sky with sound instead of silence. And yet, far below, the old dream still stirs. The sea listens to the hum of propellers and remembers the whisper of oars. The 20th century begins with certainty. The belief that everything can be found if one only looks hard enough. Maps are redrawn with precision. Depths are charted with sonar. Coordinates replace compass roses. Science has learned to touch the seafloor with mathematics. But even in this age of measurement, the idea of a lost world refuses to sink. Somewhere near the Azores, a sonar scan shows strange shapes, rectangles, angles, what appear to be steps descending into shadow. The newspapers seize it immediately. Atlantis found, printed in letters larger than the truth. By the time the scientists return with better instruments, the formation proves natural, but belief has already spread. Other claims follow. Bimini, in the Bahamas, where divers find long lines of stone beneath turquoise water. They call it the Bimini Road, a causeway of giants leading toward nothing. Geologists say it is beach rock fractured by time. Yet the mystery outlives the explanation. On television, the ocean glows blue and endless. Hosts speak of vanished temples, of magnetic anomalies, of cities swallowed whole. The camera pans across divers in silver suits, their lights flickering over coral that looks suspiciously architectural. Each shadow becomes a column, each crack a stare. The myth learns a new language, cinematography. In laboratories and research vessels, real science continues. Cores of sediment are raised from miles below. The layers tell stories of shifting climates, melting ice, rising seas. The numbers confirm what the ancients once feared, that the ocean can rise 200 feet and not even notice. And so the imagination stirs again. If such floods happened before, could they happen again? If the coastlines we walk now were once dry land, then perhaps the cities we build will one day be reefs. Atlantis becomes prophecy once more, not of the past, but of the future. In 1968, photographs from space show the planet whole for the first time. A blue sphere wrapped in cloud, fragile, luminous. From that distance, the continents look like islands in an infinite sea, and the story of a world drowned begins to sound like a warning. The oceanographers speak cautiously, but their words carry the same cadence as myth. They talk of thermal expansion, melting ice, shifting currents. They describe how the Atlantic breathes, how the Gulf Stream falters when the Arctic warms. And listeners hear not data, but destiny. Atlantis returns in their metaphors, not as marble and gold, but as symbol for the arrogance that forgets balance. A civilization too clever to notice the tide rising beneath its own foundations. A mirror held to the modern age, shimmering and uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the divers keep descending. Off the coast of Japan, near Yonaguni, they find terraces carved into the seafloor, steps, platforms, pillars that seem too precise for nature. Some call it proof, others call it illusion, but the argument itself becomes part of the same old song. In Malta, ruins lie half buried in shallow water, their edges worn smooth by centuries of tide. In Cuba, sonar picks up symmetrical mounds at impossible depth, each discovery half dream, half data, each conclusion postponed until technology can see more clearly. Technology obliges. Satellites measure gravity anomalies, mapping the hidden contours of the seabed. Computers render mountains and valleys invisible to sunlight. For the first time, the floor of the ocean becomes a landscape humans can actually see. And still, the shapes seem familiar. Circular patterns, concentric ridges, lines that could be walls, or simply memory projected onto chance. Scientists publish carefully, likely volcanic, probable fault lines, but readers interpret softly. Perhaps foundations, perhaps history. The myth survives by adaptation. It no longer needs to be literal to feel true. Atlantis becomes every question we ask about ourselves when we look at what we've built and wonder how long it will last. In 2005, oceanographers announced new mapping projects that will cover the entire globe, billions of data points, thousands of hours, and buried in the results, the mid-Atlantic ridge appears again. The same backbone that once held a telegraph cable now looks uncannily like the ghost of a continent. They name the ridges and plateaus Atlantis Seamount, Plato Ridge, Critias Deep, a quiet tribute from science to the legend it can't quite let go. Even in formal papers, the names echo the dialogue, because sometimes myth is the only poetry allowed in data. Modern explorers descend with machines that breathe for them. ROVs drift through darkness, their cameras glowing like lanterns in a cathedral. They find hydrothermal vents, black chimneys exhaling minerals into the void. They find life, strange and luminous, proof that creation thrives even in eternal night. It changes everything. Life no longer begins with sunlight, but with heat and pressure. A new origin story unfolds, one that sounds strangely like rebirth after destruction. Atlantis reappears here too, not as a city, but as the endless possibility of return. Artists take it back again. They paint domes of glass beneath the sea. They write of civilizations reborn among coral. Atlantis becomes metaphor for memory itself, the part of us that survives drowning. It shows up in novels, in symphonies, in whispers before sleep, because myth does not die. It migrates. It moves from parchment to radio, from lecture to satellite. Every time we discover something new, it finds a way to describe it. The shape of the legend remains. Only the instruments change. Scientists smile now when journalists ask, "Do you believe in Atlantis?" They say, "We believe in plate tectonics. We believe in paleoclimate. We believe in change." And beneath those answers, the same quiet faith hums, that every story begins with something true, perhaps not a city, but a feeling. Deep beneath Greenland, ice cores reveal the memory of climates long gone. Tiny bubbles trap air from before history, showing the breath of a younger world. Within those layers, the rhythm of warming and cooling, flooding and freezing, and between them, the unmistakable heartbeat of recurrence. It becomes clear the world has drowned before and will drown again. Every shore we know is temporary, every map a snapshot in motion. And suddenly Atlantis no longer feels ancient. It feels imminent. The scientists begin to speak of rising seas in decades rather than millennia, of cities that may vanish not beneath legend, but beneath prediction. Venice, Miami, Mumbai. Names that might one day sound as mythical as the island once did. The story closes its circle quietly. The new seekers are not philosophers or sailors, but climatologists. They measure tides, track ice, listen to the pulse of the planet through satellites and buoys. Their graphs hum with the same rhythm as Plato's warning, that when balance is forgotten, the sea remembers. The ocean remains beautiful and merciless. It carries ships and satellites alike, reflecting clouds and data with the same indifference. To it, the difference between myth and fact is meaningless. Both are waves. Both rise, break, and disappear into the same deep quiet. In this new century, the search continues through algorithms instead of compasses. Programs scan sonar grids for geometric shapes. Artificial intelligence hunts for right angles in chaos. Sometimes it finds them. Most often, it doesn't. But each time it tries, it teaches us something about what we wish to believe. In the 19th century, painters filled their canvases with drowned cathedrals and sunken harbors. In the 20th, filmmakers turned them into visions of glass domes and forgotten empires. And in the 21st, digital artists build them again in light. Atlantis has become the most visited place that never existed. But what they rebuild is not geography, it is mood. The calm just before the tide reclaims the shore. The shimmer of nostalgia that hovers between sadness and serenity. A longing that feels safe because it cannot be fulfilled. Writers return to it too. Some imagine survivors who carried wisdom into new ages. Others reimagine it as warning. Every version speaks the same subtext, that the past is not gone. only submerged beneath layers of noise and time, and that perhaps remembering is more dangerous and more necessary than we think. In dreams, the pattern persists. People describe the same images without having read the same texts. Blue light underwater, stairs that lead downward forever, voices echoing from nowhere. It is as if the subconscious itself contains the coordinates. Neuroscience might call this coincidence. But coincidence repeated across millennia becomes language. Perhaps the mind and the ocean are not so different, both fluid, both dark, both filled with uncharted depths, both capable of holding entire worlds beneath the surface. We sense it in our bodies, when we float, when we breathe near the shore, when we fall asleep to the sound of waves. The heartbeat slows, the mind loosens. Something ancient remembers being part of that rhythm. Some anthropologists suggest that memory itself evolved by watching the sea, that our first metaphors for time came from tides, that the returning water taught us that endings could repeat. And so the idea of a lost world was not tragedy. It was reassurance. The myths of Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, all carry the same gentle comfort. They whisper that nothing ever vanishes completely, that even if the ocean takes it, the ocean also keeps it, that forgetting and preserving might be the same act seen from opposite shores. When people meditate now, many imagine water. They picture the mind as still pond, the breath as tide. In that stillness, something stirs, not thought, but presence. A quiet knowing that feels older than the body holding it. Poets speak of this as ancestral memory. Scientists call it pattern recognition. But whatever the name, it feels like return. As if the mind itself has tides, retreating into sleep, returning in waking, carrying fragments between. Every generation rediscovers this language. When Freud wrote of dreams as sunken islands of the self, when Jung wrote of archetypes surfacing like forgotten cities, they were simply translating Plato again. The same story of consciousness rising and falling beneath waves of thought. In this light, Atlantis becomes less about pride and punishment, and more about rhythm, the natural breathing of civilization and self, creation and forgetting intertwined. Even now, as we build digital worlds that exist only as light and code, we mirror that pattern, constructing vast realms that will one day vanish into silence when the power fails. Perhaps our servers and satellites are the new ruins, our archives the new seabed. A future archaeologist might find traces of us, compressed files, half-legible words, and call it myth again. The circle continues, always disguised, always familiar. What remains constant is the yearning to preserve, to mark something against the erasure of water. But memory itself is water. It flows, changes shape, and returns to the same places under new names. That is why remembering hurts and soothes in equal measure. When you listen to the sea at night, you can feel this directly. The waves do not come to tell you stories. They come to remind you that everything you are has already been said. Your pulse aligns with theirs, your breath with their rhythm. For a moment you are not observer and world, you are continuity itself. And in that continuity, the myth regains its truth, not as record, but as experience. Atlantis becomes the part of you that refuses to vanish, even when submerged by time or doubt. It becomes the proof that imagination is a form of memory too. Every child who dreams of hidden worlds under the sea is remembering in their own way. Not the details, but the feeling of connection, the sense that life once stretched further, that everything once fit together. It is not wrong. It is simply untimed. Adults forget how to feel that vastness, but the ocean keeps it for us. Each wave a lullaby sung by a world that still remembers what unity felt like. Each tide a reassurance that we are still part of something whole. Each storm a reminder that we are still small enough to listen. When philosophers speak of collective unconscious, they might as well be describing the seafloor, a realm unseen, shaped by unseen currents, where old forms drift but never disappear. Sometimes they rise again, as art, as revelation, as déjà vu. Sometimes they rest, patient, waiting for the next generation of dreamers to dive. We live in an age that measures everything, and still we find ourselves drawn to the immeasurable. We know more about the stars than the ocean, more about the atom than the soul, and yet the silence between those facts hums with something older. The same gentle voice that spoke to the first sailor staring into darkness. That voice is not mystical. It is memory speaking through metaphor. It says only this, that loss is the beginning of meaning, that nothing loved ever truly disappears, that we are built to remember through story what the earth remembers through motion. Atlantis, then, is not just a legend. It is the mind's own tide, rising through imagination, falling through forgetfulness, repeating without end. It is the moment we close our eyes and see light underwater, the flash of recognition that feels like home though we've never been there. So when people paint it, write it, whisper it before sleep, they are not inventing, they are recalling, not evidence, but essence, not detail, but emotion. The same emotion the ocean carries in every wave. Quiet endurance. Memory does not need proof, only continuity. It lives through retelling. And so long as one person still dreams of a city beneath the sea, it remains alive, not as relic, but as reflection. The philosophers once said that learning was remembering. Perhaps the world is learning itself again through us. Perhaps we are the instruments by which the earth recalls its own history, salt returning to salt, story returning to sea. If so, then every time we stand before the ocean, we are participating in that memory. Every gaze toward the horizon is an act of communion. We are not outside the myth. We are its latest chapter. The story was never about them. It was always about us. The tide moves quietly now, not forward, not backward, simply breathing. The stars shimmer above it like faint recollections. And somewhere below, the outline of Atlantis pulses in rhythm with our hearts. Not a ruin, not a warning, but a mirror, reminding us that what sinks is never gone, only changed. The sea remembers everything. It does not keep books. It does not write. It only moves. And in its movement, nothing is ever lost. Every wave that touches a shore carries the dust of mountains that vanished before names began. Every current that circles the globe whispers stories that no ear has ever heard, but every heart already knows. When the wind passes over it, the surface trembles like breath against glass. Beneath that skin, the weight of water presses with the memory of gravity itself. Down in the abyss, the silence is so complete it folds upon itself. There, even sound becomes history. Even darkness has layers. If you could drift there, far below the light, you would see time slowed into substance, skeletons of plankton forming snow, falling endlessly, becoming the pages upon which the planet writes. Each flake a sentence of calcium and carbon, each layer another season remembered. The sea does not forget. It only waits. The continents above believe themselves stable, but they are only foam frozen in long motion. The ocean beneath moves like thought, slow, deliberate, inevitable. It carries heat. It carries salt. It carries the faint pulse of every living thing that ever touched it. Science calls it circulation, but that word is too small. It is memory made fluid, the planet's bloodstream keeping time. The Gulf Stream lifts warmth from the equator and carries it to the north, where it cools, sinks, and returns beneath the surface. One complete cycle takes 1,000 years, one breath for the body of the earth. Inside that rhythm, we find our reflection. We too breathe. We too forget. We too return. Our myths rise and fall like tides. Our empires crest and vanish into the deep. Every generation believes itself solid, and every generation is mistaken. When the first satellites looked down, the planet appeared whole, blue, fragile, suspended in dark. The astronauts spoke of awe, of stillness, of a silence that sounded like the sea. From that height, the continents looked like drifting leaves upon a single pool. It was then that humanity began to feel again what the ancients already knew, that all divisions are temporary. The ocean ties everything together. It connects the poles through current, the clouds through evaporation, the forests through rain. It moves minerals from mountain to reef, light from morning to night. It is the spine of continuity, the great recorder that never stops breathing. In its depths are archives no library could hold. Volcanic glass formed in darkness, microfossils sleeping since before the first city was built. Even the salt itself is a record, every ion a memory of something dissolved. You can taste history on your tongue when you taste the sea. And yet, for all its vastness, it holds no arrogance. The ocean is patient, endlessly patient. It has watched continents assemble, break, and drift apart. It has swallowed mountains, raised new ones, and forgotten the difference. The sea remembers the first storms, when the young planets still steam beneath a red sky. It remembers the moment life began, in vents of heat and iron far below the surface. Tiny cells learning how to capture energy, how to divide, how to endure. That memory still moves in us. We are made of the same salt, the same rhythm, the same waiting. Every heartbeat, every breath is a small echo of the tide. We rise and fall. We fill and empty. We forget and recall. The ocean does not judge this repetition. It invented it. We are only imitating the oldest pattern we know. In that glow, all time dissolves. Atlantis is not past, it is pattern. A reminder that everything precious must change form to endure. The city sank, but its lesson rose, carried in language, in art, in the pulse of our veins. And now, as we stand on the edge of another century, the ocean calls again, not to warn, but to invite, to listen, to slow, to remember that we belong to something far older than progress, that we are salt and motion, memory and water. The waves touch the shore one last time tonight. They pause, recede, and leave behind a thin line of foam. In that line lies the whole story. Every rise and fall, every myth and fact, every silence. The writing of the world, erased and rewritten with each breath. You can stand there. Feel the sand cool beneath your feet. Hear the endless rhythm begin again. No orchestra, no prophet, only the soft percussion of tide and heartbeat. That is the truest sound of history, not told, but lived. And if you listen long enough, it begins to sound like forgiveness, because the sea remembers everything and forgives everything. It carries no bitterness for the cities it has taken, no regret for the worlds it has remade. It only continues, endlessly, beautifully, turning loss into life. The greatest mercy of the planet is that it never holds a grudge. The ocean breathes. The stars shimmer upon its skin. Somewhere far below, Atlantis sleeps still, its stones softened to sand, its stories dissolved into current. And in that stillness, the earth itself exhales. The waves pull back, leaving silence, only the faint hiss of foam against shore. That sound is older than language, older than grief. It is the sound of remembering without pain, of completion without finality. It is the voice of the world saying, "You may rest now, so rest." Let your thoughts drift like light over deep water. Let the rhythm of the tide slow your breath. The story has returned to its beginning. The island to the sea to itself. Everything has been said, and everything remains. Close your eyes. The ocean moves around you, patient, infinite, alive. The last wave comes gently, touching the sand, and then it whispers, "Good night."